Welcome back, my friends, to the RoboTaxi Report. It is the 7th of June, just after 6 a.m. on Wednesday, several days later than I wanted to present this report. Now, for a long time now, going back to January 16th, I've been doing these RoboTaxi reports, and you can go on my channel into the playlists and go all the way back and enjoy how utterly horrific they were in the beginning. This is going to be episode 16. So again, this is not the first time I've done this, but it's very likely going to be the first time you're seeing this. I'm now putting all of this content on both Twitter and YouTube, and I've actually been asked about presenting this information that I talk about in my customer reactions videos or in my voiceover trips. So here it is. Share it, spread it around. Granted, I am a one-person sample size, but my volume of driving and what I do should give a lot of value to this, and the integrity of the data is something that you'll have to take my word for, to be honest, to be transparent. Now, I am very picky about this. I have a passion in science and data and doing things in an objective way, and I always have. So hopefully that gives you a little peace of mind. I'm not here to pump the stock or the system, but I'm also not here to be a hyper bear and say it'll never work. I'm here to show you the actual real world information I'm collecting from doing actual paid customer trips with Uber and Lyft, not just me in the car. I mean, I do a lot of me in the car too, because it's fun, but I try to gather all the information I can and then bring it here for you guys to actually see. It's something I've wanted to do since I got the beta with 10.2 in October of 2021, and I've been doing it ever since. Without further ado, let's look at the latest results. Well, first kind of tease, because I know you're looking at this and you see that it says RoboTaxi Results. Some of you know what this is, and I'm intentionally hiding 11.4.2 for dramatic effect, but I wanted to go over this real quick and show you guys, going back to January with 10.8.1, you're seeing all the patch iterations up until 11.3.6 until I click on this magic little button that shows us 4.2. But what you're seeing here with the blue is the quantity of trips, the amount of trips taken on that version, so 328 with 10.8.1, and 101 on 11.3.6, and the yellow line is the percentage of success on those trips. So success means that you have to imagine, because I am there, imagine I'm not there, and would it have completed the trip? So turnstock interventions to change lanes or to try to make a turn, that's a fail. Disengagements, obviously a fail. Excessive discomfort that would allow that would make the customer not want to come back to the service ever again because it was just atrocious. That's a fail. Excessive rerouting. And I had a conversation with Yaman and Chuck Cook and Meta on this, and Meta brought up a really good point that at some point you need to have a reasonable deviation for what is considered a successful trip based on routing, because if it just keeps rerouting forever and puts you on what I call a wild goose chase, then that's not really a success. The customer's not going to want to use that service. Sorry. But if it's maybe one reroute, it doesn't really affect the trip time, that's a bit more reasonable. I'm able to gauge in person the level of agitation in the passenger in a way. I'm not perfect at it. Some people don't seem bothered, but maybe really bothered. But that aside, really bad navigation, or what I would always hound as staging issues in the past, that's also a failure. Success rate, what you're seeing on here is really strict. This is like super efficient Lyft driver performance. Or basically what I expect of myself, I'm expecting of Mew, my Model 3. So it's overbearing, and it's way stricter than most people probably think. And to an important point that Chuck Cook brought up on the spaces, this isn't actually like in some complex parking lots, or it's not necessarily every time I arrive at a customer like their exact location. It's going to be within a reasonable distance from where you might walk to get picked up by a RoboTaxi, a Waymo, a cruise vehicle, a bus. Another term for it is like curb to curb. All those caveats aside, this is the information based on those metrics, and version 11 brought us back up from some pretty large pitfalls with version 10, as you can see, with 11.3.4 and 11.3.6. They were really good. 11.3.6 actually seemed to get really, really good right up until we got the 11.4.2 release. And to be at 58-59% is actually a really comforting feeling. The first 14 trips on 11.4.2 in chill mode, and we're at 93%. I'm going to let you kind of take this in as I explain some things. Again, only 14 trips, but still 93%. That's because 13 out of these 14 trips have been a 100% success, and that is unheard of so far. Now, I know there are probably a lot of mixed feelings of people watching the video because not everybody's having this experience on 11.4.2. That is accurate. This is not going to be it's not going to be reflective of everybody's performance across the board, and that's very important. I know Chuck Cook's having a horrible time in his area, and then you look at Omar from Homar's, and he's having a fantastic time. My experience on 11.4.2 is closer to Omar's than it is to Chuck's. I will be doing a lot more driving, as you can imagine. This first full week is in chill mode, so all 14 trips have been in chill mode, and it kind of brings me back to 10.11.2, where I was using what I called chill squared, which is just the drive mode's in chill and the FSD is in chill. But that is basically my setting now. I'm at 10% offset on the speed in chill drive mode with chill FSD, getting 93% with actual customer trips. And I try to record every single customer trip unless I make a blatant human error on my own end and disqualify the trip. That hasn't happened on 11.4.2 yet. I don't think that's happened since like 11.3.4. And it's a DQ trip. It doesn't count as a success or a failure in that case. It's just, I messed up. I might have accidentally taken over by putting too much force on the yoke during a turn or something, and it sucks because then I don't count that because I don't want to contaminate the data. Again, I am very strict on myself with the integrity behind this because without that, what's the point? That's also to say that these are all genuinely just with customers. My personal trips, that data doesn't get counted here. It gets counted to the overall miles and disengagements. And I say that because when we get to causation, you're going to see about 6 disengagements. Only 2 of those are with the customer trips. The only failure we had, and it was taking a full car full of 4 passengers down to a Padres game downtown in San Diego. And if you're familiar with San Diego during a Padres game downtown, it is a nightmare. It is a total mess. And on that trip, I had 2 human-related disengagements from people trying to cut through traffic and get around all the stop traffic downtown to get to the Padres game. It was a mess, and unfortunately, that's why we're at 93% instead of 100%. But I probably would have looked even crazier if that did say 100%. So this has been an incredible start, but I want to iterate how important that is. That this is just a start. This is only 14 trips. You see that with 11.3.6, I got to 101 trips. You know, as we get up to that level of rides, and then you see the percentage and where it falls, it will show you more of an overall of where the system is throughout all the regions I drive, because I'm not selective about where I drive. I go customer to customer, so that can pretty much be any 2 points in the Southern California region. You know, wherever that customer is going, that's the trip that's getting counted. What we'll look at next with the regional data is it does show that there are areas where the system will perform much better than others, and where you could see in a year's time or so, they're actually being, you know, a beta test for the Tesla network where they're actually running customers, because, you know, in that region, it's good enough to, you know, start getting that information. This is a patch that I would like to have for quite a while, because I want to get more than 100 trips that I did on 11.3.6. I want to get as many trips as I can on 11.4.2, because I think that'll redefine a baseline of performance, because this much separation, I mean, you're talking a 34% increase in success. That is wild. Anyway, I could rant on that forever. Let's go ahead and jump into our regional information. So this is a really fun map illustrating the regions of success. And what we'll do first is we'll look at 11.3.6 for comparison, because this is showing both. And you can see with 11.3.6, we hadn't really driven much by the border, and the La Mesa area and downtown and the South Park region going into Balboa, South Park area. It was pretty rough. I mean, you can see the information on the right here, the amount of kilometers before a disengagement, the amount of trips taken. And see, this is what I'm talking about. When you look at Mission Valley and Mission Hills University Heights, this is broken down by zip code, so that's why some of the regions are actually the same. You're looking at over 10 trips with a 70 to 83% success rate between those. And those are the areas when you're getting that much success that you could start looking at trying more things, because it's doing that well. Whereas when you get into, you know, downtown by the airport, it gets a lot harder. There's a lot of construction, a lot of things going on. And then, of course, you look at La Mesa. I mean, one trip, you know, that's kind of a one-off in that case. Let's go ahead and look at 11.4.2, though. Let's see what's going on now. You can ignore the 0% because there's just been no trips there. But now you're seeing how this patch has performed, and also why there probably aren't more failures, because I haven't gotten as many rides in downtown. We've done 2, as well as the whole National City Chula Vista region, Normal Heights, Ocean Beach, going up into Mira Mesa. There's a lot of places to drive I was really happy and surprised that a couple of the trips that I did down near the border were perfect. It did a really good job, and that can be pretty complicated. There's a lot of parking traffic, a lot of tight streets. It can get a little chaotic down there, but this is a really good illustration of how the system's doing in the areas that I drive. And again, any customer can be going to any region, and then those points get put in, and then we're able to see what's going on. I am not implying that my experience is indicative of the fleet. There's over 500,000 people testing this software everywhere with all sorts of results. Those of you who are watching this may be getting upset. Your experience is valid. I am not diminishing that. This is just me. I want to make that very clear. This is just my area. Eventually, I think that this level of success can be seen everywhere else, but there's a lot of data in California, Southern California, the Bay Area and such. There's a lot of Teslas, so there's a lot of data, and I think that just adds to the level of refinement in the software. So take this for what it's worth. You know, it's good information for my region and gives you an idea of what can happen in the future, but it's not indicative of everybody's experience. Now, as I rein in my ranting and try to wrap this up, we're going to take a look at causation. Now, this is showing everything. This is the causation donut, and I'll explain real quick for everybody. So when I'm looking at my disengagements, I'm trying to classify them as best I can, and this allows us to also separate the critical from the standard disengagements, as I would say. You might have heard the term safety critical disengagements. I break them down a little bit more specifically than that. So the major concern for a long time that was causing customer failed trips was actually staging, which is just properly executing a route, which would include improper lane changes, not getting over ahead of time, missing turns, all the things that would cause a really aggravated customer in a RoboTaxi atmosphere. My disengagement count for this is probably going to be a lot higher than most because I have a higher standard of expectation given the rideshare perspective here. But when we go further on, I actually have a segment for safety. And over a lot of disengagements, I mean, this is the entire list of disengagements from the start of me recording this, probably on the order of 700 or so. Only about 50 or about 4.7% have been safety related. So we have safety, we have, let's see, the ones that I consider all to be critical in disengagements would be safety, obstacles, which, because that's potholes, dips, constructions, things you can hit. Anything that can cause damage to yourself or others, injury, you know, those I would all consider critical disengagements, but also including breaking the law, legal stuff. And I believe that's, no, system error, system limitations, discomfort, human error, legal, there we go. We have our, I could have just looked on the left, you know, it's all laid out for me. Legal is any time that you're running red lights or not stopping at stop signs or trying to, I don't know, go the wrong way down a one-way road, which has never happened for me, or driving in a bus lane you're clearly not supposed to drive in. These are all legal disengagements, which I still categorize as being critical. It's bad. Shouldn't happen, period. Now, we go forward, look at 11.3.6. You can see that the majority of the problems were still staging, and I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time here because you can pause this. You can look at each of the regions. You can also look at the last RoboTaxi report where I went over 11.3.6 a bit more heavily. But what I really want to show you guys is 11.4.2. Again, in 14 trips and a couple 100 kilometers worth of driving, we've got 6 disengagements. Anybody notice something about this? Looking at the resources to the left, as well as the actual graph, there was a lot of talk when 11.4.2 was coming out about improving lane change decision making. And I've said for a while that if you eliminate the staging issue, or greatly improve it, I should say, the amount of RoboTaxi trip successes will go up drastically. Here it is. Of the 6 disengagements, I have had no issues with staging. I have had no issues with proper lane selection, getting over, and making sure, and this is on chill mode, guys. This is important. Chill mode is badass. It goes, it gets in, it's assertive when it needs to be. Some people might hear chill mode and think that it's not gonna do anything, or sorry, that it's too timid or too slow. On that note, I will say that on the highway, chill can be a little aggravating for some, because it will stay more to the right, the far right lane, and it'll stay in slower traffic. It doesn't have as much priority to activate speed-based lane changing and get around slower vehicles. So if you get behind a big vehicle like a semi or a moving truck or something, or just a slow person, you might get stuck there, and that can get agitating, and that's understandable. But that's a personal agitation that doesn't really affect the overall performance of the trip. Not really. It may seem like it, but that might be 60 seconds of your time. So I don't even fault that. And, you know, just wanted to make sure that that was said, because chill mode does have its behaviors that seem to stand out a little bit from the others, but it's mostly there. It's mostly on the highway and getting around other cars. Everywhere else, like accelerating from a stop, you know, right turn, left turns, and intersections, getting into lanes, I've noticed it is plenty aggressive. In fact, That one safety disengagement you're seeing there was on my first night with 11.4.2. I had just finished a customer trip to the airport, and if you're taking the road back, not Hawthorne, Laurel Street back from the airport into the Banker Hill area, you get some pretty crazy San Francisco style steep roads. And that night, FSD just felt like getting it, and we started to accelerate as if you were in assertive or not even in chill drive mode and fast, and I actually had to take over to avoid the car compressing as we went up to scrape. It was pretty nutty, pretty disjarring. It's the most disjarring thing I've experienced in a while, and that's the only time it's happened. So I might consider that part of the teething issues that come with getting a new update. But still, that's the kind of thing I mean with safety and showing that chill mode will get it. That's why I tweeted the Dukes of Hazzard gif, because that's what it felt like. But yeah, this is exciting. The main disengagement causation here has been human involvement. Human involvement in a non-safety related fashion, meaning that it's, you know, people that are cutting you off or might create an uncomfortable situation that could, you know, make a customer uncomfortable or just block you from doing something or make you just want to get ahead of a potentially awkward situation, but doesn't necessarily mean that it was going to end in damage or injury or anything like that. So this is really good, and we'll see how it evolves as I get more trips. But let's go ahead and take a look at the dashboard as a whole. I feel like I've been ranting forever here, and this is showing cumulatively everything, and there's a bit more information on here than you've even seen, like my split between turnstock interventions and accelerator interventions, my total kilometers driven on beta overall, city and highway percentages, my total RoboTaxi trips. Under this strict metric that I was just talking about, we've done 1,225 paid customer RoboTaxi trips. Who else has done that? How many does Waymo and Zeus and Cruise have? I might beat them with one car. I don't know. I might not. I might be way off. So please let me know either down in the comments or you know tweet it down below the video, because again, this will be on both platforms. And then overall success, cumulative success. Of course, if we click on 4.2 there, boom, 93%. We've done just over 300 kilometers on 11.4.2 and about 5 hours of total operation. You know, this is the hours that the system is active, actually on. So that's where I pull my operational hours from. But here we can actually look at the modes, and I can show you what I mean. So in 11.3.6, I had a pretty decent split between them, the amount of trips taken on each mode. And average came out on top. Chill and assertive were pretty close to one another. On 11.4.2, here we go. So, it's kilometers to disengagement that you're seeing here. So they're relatively close in that metric. And now here you're seeing 11.4.2. And the reason there's assertive and average, that was just the gauntlet. The gauntlet run, I did a lap on each. So that's what you're seeing. And on one of them, I wasn't as good as I should have been at switching modes during the gauntlet test. So that's why it's a little off there. My bad. But this does show, you know, the chill mode has been my predominant use for, it's been the only use for customer related stuff. And we've only got, we got 9 accelerator interventions or throttle interventions total in the time that I've been using. The majority of those just being on my personal drives in between customer trips. And it's just mostly me just being impatient or wanting to push the car on. But I logged that because I did intervene. That's how much I value the integrity of the data. The great thing is that you can all pause and screenshot, look at this, and you know, check out the disengagements across the builds. You know, the yellow is the disengagements per kilometer, and then the blue is the kilometers per disengagement. That's why they have that inverse relationship on the graph there. But this is something that I love, and I'm going to try to bring this up to about a week-ish between reports. I've got Elias, you know, on me trying to get these out and keeping me accountable for making sure that these are put up more often, because this is the kind of information that a lot of people want to see, is the actual numbers. I mean, you'll see a lot of videos and anecdotal discussions and, you know, subjective opinions about it, and the more we can hone in on something tangible, something that shows progression over time, I think it gives you a much better representation for what's going on. And I could nerd out about this stuff all day. I look forward to engaging in the comment section and on the tweet threads. Let me know what you think of all of this. And I'm going to go ahead and get this posted and get back out there and get more customers and see just how good 11.4.2 really is. So all that being said, thank you so much for the view, everybody, and take care.